Okay, hello there, folks. I am back. Hopefully, you'll be back soon too. We were just live a minute ago, shut it down, and restarted it because of a technical issue. So I see one person has made it back. Hello there. Good to see you. Hopefully, there'll be more showing up momentarily. There's two. Now, I'll wait till we have a few more people. Again, feel free as you're coming up. Hello there. Good to see you. Hello there. Well. Judy, good to see you. Gotcha now. Yep. 13. Okay. So feel free to say hello, to say who you are and where you're from. If I don't already know, I know where you're from, Judy. I know where many of you are from, of course. But if I don't know, feel free to say hello there again. Little Pump, good to see you back. I see we're up to 17 already. I know what happened. I realized when I went back in to do this, I'll tell you, I had someone waiting. Hello there, Judy, good from Oregon. Good to see you. I know that. Neil, good to see you. Glad you're here. Ian, good to see you. Difficult to track you today. Yeah, I apologize. Michael, good to see you. Top of the morning to you. Veronica, glad to see you here. Michael and Veronica, are you the same Kyles? I see you both have a Kyles. Julie, good to see you from El Salvador. Nice, glad you're here. Hello there from Philadelphia, Lisa B. Good to see you. I don't know if you know, my little brother's in, you're related, you and Michael. Okay. My little brother lives in Philadelphia, is actually a doctor working at CHOP. That's my ma. Okay. Good to see you both. I'm glad you're both here. That's nice that you're both joining us together. Okay. So I apologize. I realized, I don't know if Diane's here yet, but Diane, thank you again if you're here, for alerting me to what was going on here. I realized what I did was I had somebody waiting to record. We just finished recording. I got back here, just at 9 o'clock to go live after an hour earlier, setting it up to let everyone know I'd be live, but I neglected there's a little button you have to click that says unlisted or public. And I normally do this every week now for years. I was in a rush. This is what happens when you rush. Yeah, you want to take your time, right? I was in a rush because she was waiting for me to start recording a video, and I neglected I forgot all about that. I just, I was scrolling down to what I need to do to make this happen, and I didn't click public. So you didn't get informed. For some of you, you're just finding me. I was live at 9 o'clock, but you didn't see that because it didn't inform you. So it's okay. We didn't get very far. We didn't say very much. And Diane finally told me, yeah, thank you, Diane. So here we are. We're back. I'm live. This is a little more like it. It was a little weird. It's been a long time. So I don't know if I've ever gone live and had, 8, 10 people there with us. And of course, it was unlisted. It makes perfect sense. Only those who actually went looking for me found me. If you were waiting to be notified as usual, it didn't happen. You didn't see that because it was my mistake. So I'm glad we've got that corrected. Thanks so much. I was really strange. I was wondering what's going on here. Something I don't know. Okay. So I've got a few more comments here. The Ken Allen Show says, hello, Loren, your thoughts on using H2O2 as a mouth rinse or putting in ears while lying on one side. Can it damage hearing? Thank you. I don't know if you can damage your hearing with H2O2 or not, but I'd be careful about it because I think it's entirely possible. I mean, I don't really know whether this is something you have to worry about or not. In terms of what you said, using as a mouthwash, I mean, it will kill pathogens, but of course the pathogens aren't the problem, right? The problem is the imbalance in the system. So using it that way might give you temporary relief if you have an infection in your mouth, for instance. You might get temporary relief from doing this, but you're not really correcting the underlying issue. And so, I think it can, certainly can be potentially harmful if it's too concentrated. So I would encourage everyone to be very cautious about using this or any other remedy, right? Again, I typically don't use substances for anything. And there have been some rare occasions, but generally speaking, if it's not a life-threatening symptom, you want to simply do your best to get out of your body's way, which means fasting to allow the body to cleanse and heal itself is the very best thing to do. If you're making poor choices in your diet, then you can improve that. There are many other possibilities, many other things that you can do. I just realized I'm you're gonna wonder about my sanity today, but lately I've also been going live on Instagram at the same time and just realized I didn't do that. I neglected to do that, and so I'm not there. Anyway, we'll move on today. I think maybe I'll excuse myself for just a second, grab my cell phone, and go ahead and get that set up. It'll just take me a minute, but I see we have a super chat here, and then I'll come back to the questions. Ian, Many Ford Ian says with a 10 pound donation, from last week's super chat, my heart rate reduces by about 20 beats per minute when I lie down compared to standing, both resting rates from high 40s to high 60s. Is this normal? If so, which rate do I use? Yeah, it is completely normal for your heart rate to go down when you are standing. Standing is pretty easy. It doesn't feel like much work, but we are engaging muscles. We are engaging the body. It's not like lying down. Lying down, you need not tense a single muscle. You don't have to do anything at all. When you stand up, you do need to engage the body in maintaining that posture. And so it may be relatively easy, but it does require some activity of the body. And so your heart is going to work a little harder. That's going to happen every single time. So nothing to worry about. I don't know. I mean, I would probably use your lying down pulse rate over the standing one. But the other thing to do would be to sit comfortably, right, and do it that way. And you'll probably get a pulse that's a little bit higher than lying down, possibly, but definitely lower than standing up. So, I mean, I definitely wouldn't do it standing up. We take a pulse. If you go to a doctor's office, they take a pulse. It's always going to be done when either you're sitting down or lying down, almost always. Okay, that's going to make more sense if you're looking for a reasonable estimate of what's going on. Michael has made a 528. There's a nice round number. Euro contribution. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate that very much. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Just a moment, okay? Okay, so I'm back. I'm just going to set this up. I can't answer questions while I'm doing this because I can't do that while I'm doing this, but give me just a moment and we will be back here in just a second. Actually, all I have to do is set up my little stand and plug the phone in, and I'll be ready to go. So I'll be back with you in just a second. So I'm gonna share with you. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I'm happy to talk about anything going on. I was sharing earlier about some of our planting happening here. We're in our rainy season here, and this is the time we plant trees. We have, after August, we have September, October, November, and then it stops raining. And so we're more than halfway through the rainy season. It's gone so quickly. I don't know that we're going to be able to plant trees for too much longer, because if we get too late into the rainy season, there won't be enough rain to make sure everything's in good shape before the dry season happens. And so what we're probably going to do is we're going to plant for another week or so, and then we're going to probably now we need a little longer than that, because we're also planning on doing something which is, as we are in the process of planting, we are also going in the process of setting up what's what I'm looking for. We're going to be setting up irrigation systems for these new trees. The idea with these swales, we develop swales here, which is a permaculture technique to ensure that all the rainwater, as much of the rain as possible, is stored in the ground instead of running off the surface of the ground. We store rainwater that way so that the tree's root systems can hold all this water. And this is, as long as they have enough of the rainy season to hold water, they can easily make it through the dry season. Those things that we plant from now on, with only 3 months left, if it's a super hard, hot, dry season, it's going to be a problem. But we have a very crude structure on this property. This is the piece that we acquired just a few months ago after waiting years to make it happen. We started negotiating for this almost 4 years ago. We finally made it happen when we were able to refinance this property and therefore get the money to buy that property. So we're going to take this crude structure, gutter it, and put in a tank so we can hold all of the water that falls on that roof for the next 3 months. And that should get us through most of the dry season. And of course, the beginning of the dry season, they won't need so much because there's still a lot of water in the ground. And then as the dry season continues, we'll be able to use the stored water that we've got there. Now, we're also going to be developing ponds and some other assets which will allow us to store water so that we can always make sure everything we plant has ample water to make it through the dry season. By doing that, we should be perfectly fine. Okay, so let me scroll back up here and see if there's any other questions. Those of you joining me on Instagram, welcome. I won't be, it's a little hard because I'm at a distance from my phone because I'm also using my computer screen here. It's a little bit hard to read the comments without getting super close to my phone, which I'm not going to do. So, again, as I've probably mentioned before, if you want me to respond to your comments, you might want to go live with me on YouTube, where I'm live, as well as on Instagram, because on Instagram, I can't really see all the messages. I see a bunch of you here, and I welcome everybody, so thanks for joining. I see there's a whole bunch of people scrolling up on Instagram. Okay, Eric says, what would you advise someone do about an injury if they did an extended fast around 20 days, only a couple months ago, a shorter fast? Yeah, it depends on the nature of the injury, Eric, and just exactly how dire it is, because although as Eric is aware, and I think he's talking here, I mean, what he hasn't said it, but he's aware that I recommend waiting 8 months or so after a fast of that length before fasting again. And now that's an arbitrary number. It's not like that's the exact right number. It's simply that I find that most people do best having some time between long fasts, not going directly from one to another one. And yet, where there's a strong enough reason to do it, if someone is balanced and healthy, I actually have someone here on the call today that's here on YouTube with me who did a fast after fasting not so long before because there was a specific reason to. Okay, and if someone's healthy enough and their diet's been good enough, it's almost always going to be okay. Optimal, maybe not, but obviously it's optimal not to injure yourself. If the idea is healing from an injury, then you do what you need to do, and fasting is the best way. So now, the other piece of that answer, though, Eric, is, again, it depends on the nature of the injury and the person involved. When we fast to heal an injury, it can actually take less time depending on the severity of the injury, right? So when I broke my hip, I think it was 3 years ago, in early August, if I remember correctly, I only had a week and I needed to travel, and it wasn't really long enough, and it didn't heal as quickly as most. I mean, that was a major injury, and I would have been better off fasting longer, but I didn't have the ability to do it at the time. I had something I needed to do. I mean, it was like critically important that I travel at the moment that I did. It wasn't something I could really put off. The circumstances don't matter, but trust me, I wouldn't have traveled if I didn't need to. And so in that instance, I could have used more time. But generally speaking, when I fasted because I've broken a finger or a toe, which I've done on several occasions, or I've had a serious animal bite to recover from, which has happened, a snake bite, a cat bite, whatever it was, for me, those recoveries have been incredibly rapid. And maybe it's not so surprising when you consider the fact that I have fasted a lot of my life, that I keep my body very hydrated, and you can probably see that. Again, there's fewer lines than most people who are approaching 60 would have. My skin is still soft and supple. That's hydration, because I've got my body clean and because I maintain a close to optimal diet. And so keep it hydrated. And so my own recoveries have been very, very rapid. And I've been able to see amazing results fasting only for a week, which would almost never be a problem for someone, even if they had just fasted a relatively short time ago. Okay. So, I mean, the bottom line is each case is different. We would have to look and see what was going on for somebody. For someone like Eric, if you feel after having fasted many times and a few times with me that you don't need guidance through the process, it might make sense to book a consultation just to go over the circumstances to decide if it makes sense to fast or not. I mean, sometimes that might be a good investment. Okay. I see we have Matthew has made a $2 Canadian dollar donation here with a question about thoughts on dry saunas. Dry saunas. So first of all, there's two different types of saunas. Traditional saunas are typically very hot, and I would say are overheating the body, stressing the body from seriously overheating it, dehydrating the body as the body attempts to cool itself down through perspiration, and therefore losing precious hydration and electrolytes, which we sweat out, which then need to be replaced. I mean, I think that the benefits of a typical sauna are probably outweighed by the costs to the body in having to recover from the sauna. The exception might be infrared saunas. And today, if you buy a packaged sauna, like, they often come in knockdown buildings that you can put together on site. They could be a small thing that's just 10 meters, one, it could be 1 meter or 2 meters square inside, up to something much larger, that seats 1 or 2 people, up to something much larger that can seat 20 or 30 people. Most of these today use infrared lamps. Now, infrared lamps 10 or 15 years ago were actually quite dangerous because they put out a high level of electromagnetic radiation, what we call EMFs. Today, there are a new breed of infrared lamps which don't put out a high amount of EMFs. They're relatively safe to use, and there are some benefits to exposing yourself to that kind of heat. And one of the reasons why infrared saunas, I didn't say this, infrared saunas are much better than regular saunas is because infrared lamps create this light spectrum, right? Infrared is a wavelength of light on the spectrum of light. It's at one end, you have ultraviolet at one end and infrared at the other. And infrared rays don't warm the air, but they warm solid objects. And so you use infrared lamps, the surfaces are going to heat up and your body's going to heat up, and the surfaces will heat up and re-radiate heat. But the infrared sauna will be much less hot than a regular sauna. And that's much better for you in terms of overheating, in terms of sweating out electrolytes and hydration. I'm going to move this a little closer. Infrared is going to be, I think, superior in most ways to a regular sauna. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I think I've explained well why that is. Okay, so let me scroll back up here and see what else I've missed. Hello there from Germany, die Warhart. I'm probably not saying that very well. Sorry about that. What's with this new schedule? What new schedule? You mean starting late? Hopefully you're already clear about that. I started on time and screwed it up, and so turned it off and restarted. So here we are with the public version of what started out as, it was public, it was just unlisted. So you don't get notified, you don't get to see it unless you go looking for me, and the earlier chat, you're not going to see it. But here we are. Hopefully, we'll still have enough time to do what we need to. Travis says, do you remember when I wrote you an email a long time ago? Just wanted to say thanks for everything you do. Hi, Travis. I am embarrassed to say I do not remember. Please forgive me. I literally hear from 24 people every day. It's very difficult for me to even keep up with the emails and messages on all channels. I mean, life gets more complicated, right? I've had Instagram now for a couple of years, never really did anything with it until recently. And now it's one more channel I need to look at, and I could easily spend hours a day on. In fact, when I got up to record the video just before recording this, coming and doing this live, I was in the middle of responding to a comment on my Instagram channel, which, it takes so much time to do all this stuff. I apologize, I don't remember, but I thank you very much for speaking up and for your kind comments here. I am very, very grateful to be able to share everything that I can, and very happy to call this my work, right? Because I get to see amazing results for people all the time, incredible changes for people, and it's a wonderful thing. And I can't think of a better way to spend my time. So I'm really, really happy to be here, and I'm happy that whatever it was that I did had some positive impact on you. Thank you again for speaking up. Okay, Michael says, 2 things I didn't appreciate: how they depicted you in the Netflix doc, tried to make you and the facility look bad. Also, what's your take on drinking sea moss? Okay, so I can't say much about sea moss. Actually, I haven't really studied that. I don't know so much about it, what it involves. But I can say, I mean, most sea plants contain vitamin B12 analogs, not vitamin B12. They occupy the receptor sites where B12 should occupy, and because they're occupied, you can't absorb B12. They tend to be very high in salt. I mean, it's actually salt from the salt water. I don't think there's any reason why we have to consume any significant amount of seaweeds. You can if you want to, but I would be cautious about over-consuming them. Remember that, unfortunately, most of the waters on the planet, sea waters, are polluted, and that means the plants coming out of them are going to be affected by that. And again, it's not B12, it's a B12 analog. So I do want to get to the first part of your question, because one of the things I said I would talk about today, and I see that time is quickly getting away from me here, I've got about 18 minutes left, is this program. Now, and let me clarify, Michael, because Michael says the Netflix doc, it is not a documentary. Okay, you want to be clear about this. And unfortunately, I mean, they kind of make it look like it's a documentary, but it's not a documentary. They actually say in the beginning of this program, this film is intended for entertainment, to entertain and inform you. Okay, now documentaries are intended to inform you, and they have a high standard of neutrality. Okay, so a documentary maker, if they say one thing, they have one person saying one side. They have to go to the opponent, whoever it might be, whatever's going on there. They have to represent both sides, or it's not really a valid documentary. Netflix didn't do that. They spent 2 days here recording with us. They spent probably 2 or more hours interviewing me, and they showed 5 minutes. And they didn't show me responding to the specific allegation made by the client's widow. I had a client who left us. He did a 30-day fast, 11 days out of 12 days. Actually, it was on his 12th day of refeeding. The day before he was going to leave, he said he wanted to leave and go to a hotel. And he seemed a little strange, but frankly, he always seemed a bit strange. I didn't believe I had the right to detain him, to hold him. I tried to encourage him not to go, but that's different than physically detaining him. And so I didn't detain him. I'm going to open the door for the kitties. Hang on a second. Oh, nope, they're not there. They're at the other. Someone's at the other door, but I'm not going to go get that. So I didn't detain him. I took him to a hotel. Long story short, I mean, they depicted some of this. What they didn't tell you is that when I took him to the hospital, I mean, the ambulance took him to the hospital. I drove behind the ambulance. My intern was in the ambulance with the client. He had fallen on, if you haven't heard any of this, he fell on his head, fell down the stairs, hit his head on a marble floor, was in a giant pool of blood. I went and checked him in, did all the paperwork, told him everything, called his wife, and then we headed back in my car to the center. And as we were probably 20, 30 minutes out of the city on the way on the highway back to Tanglewood, the hospital called and said, he lost a lot of blood. He's going to die without a blood transfusion, but there's a card in his wallet that says he's a Jehovah's Witness and can't get blood. Can you authorize the transfusion? And I said, I'm not family. I mean, his if he says no, I can't override that, but I'll call his wife and get back to you. And so I pulled over. And by the way, I mean, again, if this was a documentary, they would have chased down the evidence. I told them this, right? The intern who was in the car with me, I'm still in touch with. They could have contacted her and she could have easily confirmed what I'm telling you, but they didn't bother to do any of that. Okay. They started out with a particular viewpoint. They told us that the program was called Well. And then when it actually aired, it was called Unwell. So they were dishonest with us and they set out to make us look bad. And they didn't do any of this research that a documentary filmmaker would do. That's not that standard. This is for education. This is for entertainment purposes primarily. And they had a view they wanted to say. So I called Jonathan's wife and said to her, the hospital just called me. They need to give him blood. His card says no blood. Can you authorize a blood transfusion? They said he's going to die without it. And she said, no, he's a Jehovah's Witness. We're Jehovah's Witnesses. I can't authorize a transfusion. And I called the hospital and told them. And so they didn't give him blood. He died 2 days later, just like they said he would. Now she now says it was my fault that he died. I don't quite understand that. I mean, it seems like she's unwilling to take responsibility for her choice to not allow for a blood transfusion. And, your religious beliefs are your own religious beliefs. That's fine. You don't have to justify them to me. But the fact is, she made a simple choice and said, no, he can't have blood. And the result of that was exactly as they predicted. He had lost so much blood that he died. Okay. I would say, law enforcement looked into this whole situation as they do. What did they determine? They determined that we had no responsibility for his death. Okay. And this is why I've never been charged with anything other than practicing medicine without a license. So, I've gotten hate mail every single day for the last, 2.5 weeks or so since that program aired. And I will probably continue to get it. In fact, I'll make an appeal here to you. I wouldn't, I'm not asking people who haven't been here, but there are many people here with me who've been to Tanglewood and have had the experience that you have, or if I've worked with you in any way, I mean, it's up to you. But we're now, if you Google a business, we're now getting reviews every day from people who've never been here. And they're reviewing us because of this program. Oh, don't go there. They killed somebody. Folks, I work really, really hard and don't take a salary in order to help as many people as possible. That's why I'm on here every week, sharing everything I can. That's why I'm producing all these videos. That's why, lots of content. I'm doing everything I can to get information out there because I know how healthy people can be when they know what to do. Now, not everyone's willing to make the choices that they need to make, but most people can't make the choices they need to make because they don't know. They don't have the information. And so getting the information out there, for me, is a critically important thing and something I'm completely committed to. And I know I've done everything I can to help people with my adult life. That's how I've spent most of my life. Anyway, my request, if you have experience with Tanglewood, go to Google and give us a review based on your own experience. If you've had a positive experience, please say so. Our average rating is now quite low because we're getting these negative reviews by people who've never, and I respond to every single one. Oh, another review by someone who's never been here. How much sense does that make? Why do you believe everything you watch on television, right? Or you don't, you believe what you want to believe, right? Folks, it doesn't make any sense. Suffice to say that the Netflix account of what happened is far from the complete story. And if you think I shouldn't have let him go to the hotel, I should have somehow, restrained him. Okay, that you're entitled to that belief. But making the leap that I'm therefore responsible for his death when there's a much more direct causal responsibility involved by simply giving him the blood that his body needed to stay alive, that might have done it. Maybe he'd be alive today. He might have still fallen down the stairs, but he would be alive anyway. Okay, I've got some super chats here and not much time, so let me move on. I hope that I've been asked by many people to respond to this, and so here we are. Maybe I'll do a whole video talking about this. I'm not sure. It's it's not something I really want to focus on. It has been suggested, and I don't know if anybody has any information about this. If you have any knowledge about this, if you do, please email me, Loren@tanglewoodwellnesscenter.com. But I've had people suggesting that we should actually file a suit against Netflix because they intended to harm us. And we have had a ton of people who I don't know what their opinion might have been before, but I certainly know what it is now. I mean, I have people telling me every day, that I don't deserve to live, and the world would be better without me, et cetera, et cetera. And listen, that doesn't really faze me. I know I'm doing the best I can. I know I'm out there helping as many people as possible, and I know that many of you know it too. But so first of all, please do go Google Tanglewood, review Tanglewood if you have experience with us. And I'm not asking you to be dishonest. If you had a mediocre experience, then say so. Okay, but let's have reviews by people who've actually been here, instead of reviews by people that watch some program on television and think they're now qualified to judge Tanglewood and which I think is absurd. Okay, Neil Brown says, good morning. I find since doing more of a fruit diet, mostly high water fruits, I find I'm peeing a lot more, sometimes twice an hour is normal. I'm also 50. I'm also almost 50. Thanks in advance. Have a great day. Neil, it is typical for people to pee much more often. But what's going on, let me say this. I don't pee twice an hour. I don't pee once an hour, okay? The difference is that you haven't done a long enough or properly conducted fast. When you get the old material out of your body, you will cease to pee so frequently. You're peeing because when you eat a high water content diet, you're starting to rehydrate stuff sitting in your intestines. It never gets hydrated enough to leave your body. Never gets broken down enough to leave your body, but you start to hydrate it. You start holding water. That water is pushing on your bladder, and you have to pee more often. Okay, this is a big part of what's going on. It could also be that as your body begins cleansing, there's nasty stuff your body wants to get rid of more quickly. But it's if you measure the volume, it's unlikely that twice an hour, unless you're drinking a lot of water too, that twice an hour you're actually needing to empty your bladder. That would be pretty hard to fill up your bladder twice in an hour. For most people, it's about 700 milliliters, which is quite a bit. It's almost 3 quarts of water. So it's unlikely that that's what's going on. Okay, I think I can almost guarantee you, come and spend 4 or more weeks with us, and by the time you're done, you won't have to pee. You'll eat the same diet, and you won't have to pee all the time. It'll change everything. It's amazing how that shifts. Okay. Sherry says, what are you feeling inspired to share at this moment? Words of wisdom. Okay. Well, thank you, Sherry, for putting me on the spot. It's a very fair question. I appreciate it. Okay, Ash, I'll open the door for you, buddy. He's not going to quiet down until I let him in. So, I'm a crazy kitty here. Come on in. What am I feeling inspired to share at this moment? Yeah, that's a good one. I hadn't really. I guess what I'm feeling inspired to share. I'll share one more thing that's occurred since I was last with you here. And if you've been on my Instagram channel, you may be aware of this, although mostly what I've done on Instagram lately has been in Spanish. I fasted a celebrity in Chile, someone who's worked with me before. We completed her process almost 3 weeks ago, I think. And because she's so well known, she was a television celebrity and a model in Chile. She was covered, her fast was covered by all the newspapers, all the magazines, all the TV channels, all the radio stations, and with quotes by the president of the College of Nutritionists saying that this was harmful and dangerous, and she was a bad example, and that she was likely to have a heart attack, and that the body begins to destroy itself after 36 hours of fasting. Absurd nonsense from people who are completely unqualified to discuss fasting. How does being a nutritionist PhD nutritionist, perhaps, I don't know what her qualifications are, but as a nutritionist, but how does that, being a nutritionist, qualify you to discuss fasting? We're also being, they were going out and talking to doctors and same things. I mean, these, doctors telling them, oh, fasting is harmful and dangerous, et cetera, et cetera. So the latest, and this has been going on now for 7 weeks, roughly. In fact, I am now well known in Chile because my face and clips of video of Roxana and I on Instagram live broadcasts have been rebroadcast on TV stations, etc. I did an interview with some guy, and again, a complete hack job, completely dishonest, not willing to represent, like not give my answers to questions, only say what they wanted to say. There are people out there. This isn't journalism, and if anyone really still wonders, can we trust the news media? No, of course not. These are paid. This is the mouthpiece of New World Order. This is the mouthpiece of the Rockefellers and the elites, the Rothschilds primarily, who it's said control half of the planet's wealth. The royal family of the UK, the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, and these families, the 13 wealthiest families in the world that control virtually everything, and who it's been said want to eliminate most of us because the world's overpopulated and we're using their resources and polluting their planet. They don't care for any of us. These people control everything. They control the news media. They control the medicine and nutrition and what's being taught. And anyway. So what I guess my words of wisdom, what I feel inspired to say is, folks, open. And again, I realize to a large extent I'm already speaking to the converted, right? Preaching to the converted. Many of you are here because you already get this. Open your mind, okay? Do not believe what the conventional media tell you. Don't believe that medicine has all the answers. Don't believe that the science of nutrition. I mean, the nutritionists are still telling people that you get calcium from dairy products and everyone should eat animal products and grains, et cetera, et cetera. And many of us here know very, very well that animal products are harmful and shorten our lives, that grains are dangerous and harmful to the body. We do not need these substances. And the fact is, and this is often true, that when you look at what they're teaching people at university levels and schools and below, it is often outdated nonsense, okay? Cutting edge research is well beyond this, but they're teaching the same garbage they were teaching 50 years ago. And look what's happened in those 50 years, skyrocketing rates of heart disease and cancer, et cetera. And this is people listening to these folks, okay? So, my words of wisdom today are open your mind, listen to your intuition, okay? Be willing to consider things that at first may seem absurd to you or hard to believe. Understand what's possible. I'm having these nutritionists who are 25 years old tell me, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have a degree. Therefore, what do I know? But I'm telling, well, I have helped more than 12,000 people create amazing levels of health. Most of these people who had already, had gotten to where they are by listening to nutritionists and doctors, doctors who were telling them, oh, I can't help you. Sorry, there is no cure for this condition. And of course, the body can heal almost anything. So that's a short answer. I'm sorry if it's not maybe as inspired as you might have liked, Sherry, but I'm going to move on because I'm way running out of time here. Should be on a call in 2 minutes. Stephanie says, good morning, at $4.99 contribution. Thank you. Honestly, I didn't think Unwell painted you in that bad of a light. In my humble opinion, sending much love and hugs to you. Thank you. I watched it with my team here, and we were all disappointed. But because, first of all, they lied to us about the whole concept, where they were dishonest about the whole thing, and they didn't allow me to. They didn't show the footage of me responding to these questions. So I understand. I mean, the fact is that we're still hearing from plenty of people. We hear from people every day who say, I saw the program. I think you're awesome. Et cetera. I want to come, whatever. But but we're also getting a lot of hate mail, and that's what they attempted to do, was to paint us in a bad light. I know people like you, Veronica, who have experience with us. Stephanie, have experience with us, and please go to Google and review us if you haven't already. People like you, you're not going to be swayed by what these people have to say, and a lot of other intelligent, open-minded people are watching this and going, I think I like that guy. I think I trust that guy. Okay. Other people are going to believe whatever is put in front of them, whatever's being spoon-fed to them, unfortunately. I mean, that's where a lot of people are. So Veronica has made a $9.99 donation and said, thank you. You are very, very welcome. Thank you. Incessant 2 says, unwell promotes you, Loren. They highlighted one dude who died after he left. Not a big deal. Well, listen, I mean, I appreciate your viewpoint. Again, I think they did their best to try to paint us in a bad light. I don't think they were attempting to promote us in any way. As it happens, and we watched this together with my team, as I said, and most of the team was kind of upset. I mean, they're all. I've got 6 volunteers. Every one of them has fasted here. There's one that's here with her husband, who's a client. They're here together and they're working on some projects with me. And she's actually about to fast in a couple of weeks. And she's blown away by what she's been seeing since she's been here. She came here not sure she wanted to fast, not sure she wanted to have anything to do with Tanglewood or be part of our community. Now she's very sure. She has paid to fast. She is excited about being here, living this lifestyle. She wants to be part of the community. And, that's awesome. All the rest, 3 of my, 4 of my volunteers have fasted here 3 times. And one of them, one did one fast, didn't go very long. 2 of them did a fast, didn't go very long, and then did a longer one afterward. So tried 3 fasts, really did 2.5. And the other 2 have both done 3 fasts here. So, these are people that really believe in what we do and have had the impact in their own lives and with their own health. And they were upset by what we saw. And I said to them, you know what? There's going to be hate mail. There's going to be those people who take what's spoon-fed and just, put it right back out there as if that's the truth. And there's going to be those people who are going to look at this and go, I think I want to go there because of it. And so we're getting both of those things. I still don't appreciate what they did, but I appreciate your viewpoint and your comments. Thank you. All right. Okay, and I have someone here. Alfredo is saying a big part of my family are Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's true. He wouldn't have wanted it any other way. That may be so. That's what she said. But again, it's just a question of responsibility. I'm not saying I'm not judging her for what she did. I'm only pointing out that he would have survived if he had blood. At least that's what the doctors said at the time. William Flores has made a $5 contribution. Says, what are the dangers of consuming turmeric? Well, turmeric is relatively not very dangerous. I don't know how many dangers there are, but most herbs and most roots contain toxic compounds and are suppressing symptoms. They're not healing us. The body heals itself. So I would look at it from a slightly different perspective. It's not necessarily that it's dangerous to us. It just may not be really helping us very much. Okay, let me scroll on down. Shannon has made a $4.99 contribution. Says, hello, Loren. Have you heard any new updates regarding traveling to Costa Rica from the USA? Yep, I actually talked about this earlier. Costa Rica's borders are open as of the 1st of September to people from 6 U.S. states only. So as of September 1st, people can travel here from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, I believe it's New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont. I'm missing one. I don't recall. It's not Connecticut. It is Connecticut. It's not Rhode Island. It's not Massachusetts, I think. In fact, let me jump over here for just a second. I just sent one of my volunteers this list yesterday. So let me see if I can find that message, and I'll read the list to you. Hang on here. I'm keenly aware that I've got people waiting for me on a call, so I'm not going to stay very long. Here it is. Okay, it's New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, and Connecticut. Okay, so there's the list. That's it for now. We don't have any information about any other states yet. And it's unusual that they're doing this on a state-by-state basis, but that's what they're doing. They're doing it on a state-by-state basis. So we don't know anything else yet about people coming from anywhere else. I do expect that it's going to change soon. Usually every week there's new announcements. We might hear something today. And as soon as I know anything, I'll share it on Tanglewood's Facebook page. If nowhere else, I'll be here next week. But you're always welcome to write to me and ask me as well. But as of now, this is all we know as far in terms of coming from the U.S. William, okay, there's the same question. Thanks again, William, for the contribution. Hedo Alfonso says, with a $5 Canadian contribution, how common is pain in the kidneys during the fast? How do you know why it occurs? Is it part of the detox process? Thank you. It's fairly common. It can be part of the detox process. You have to really understand what's going on. It can happen if you're not getting enough water. It can happen if you're getting too much water. It can also happen if your kidneys are working hard. Hero, as you've probably heard me say before, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I would always recommend fasting with experienced guidance. It makes all the difference in the world. So, if you have experienced guidance, there's a pretty good idea, pretty good chance that you'll have a better understanding of what's really going on. Okay, so it can happen, but it's hard to know for sure. All right, thanks everybody for being here with me today. I'm sorry I have to rush off. I'm sorry we had a shortened time because of my oversight. I won't forget again to make sure that we go public, that you get notified next week when I'm live again. Feel free to share this. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying this and believe there's some value here. Please do. As I've said before, if you've had some experience with Tanglewood and you're willing to go give us a review, I'd appreciate that very much. And feel free to share the video on your pages as well as to give it a thumbs up. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care. Okay, let's